Okay, so Canada just announced who it's going to be buying its submarines from, and it's going to be Germany. I think it's 12 of them. And we also know that the China EVs are on the way as well. And not only that, we signed a big deal with Australia for our new long-range radar system. Now, these might all sound like different stories, but I grouped them all together. Why? Because the United States is not involved in any of them. And this one here actually really pisses off the United States, which deep down inside, it makes me very happy. But what this means is that Canada is starting to look around and looking past the United States. And it's honestly about time. Because does anybody really want to deal with a country whose president acts like a 5-year-old and basically does whatever he wants? And for the record, I'm very happy that Belgium won. It just proves that cheating doesn't win. But in today's video, I want to go over the submarine deal a little bit, and then also give a little bit of an update on the China EVs. So let's get started on this right away, because I have a lot to talk about. Well, and stick around to the end. I got another Canadian tune that I think everybody will remember. Alright, let's get started.
Silent, modular, and lethal.
A battle over the biggest procurement project in Canadian history now over.
I'm pleased to announce that Canada has selected TKMS as the preferred supplier.
The Prime Minister picking a German and Norwegian consortium to build Canada's new fleet of submarines.
We will now enter into negotiations to procure up to 12 submarines.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know what the difference between the German and the South Korean subs were. In fact, I really don't know very much about subs. My knowledge, they go underwater and then they come back up. That's about it. But what I do know is that Canada just opened the door to a new partnership with Germany as well as Norway. These are countries that I can feel comfortable with. Not like, a country that's going to take us over, annex us, tariff us, and call us nasty. So I'm all for this move.
For months, TKMS went head-to-head with South Korea's Hanwha Ocean, vying for the multi-billion-dollar contract. That company sent one of its submarines across the Pacific to try and wow Canada, but Carney went with the Europeans instead.
And it's fully NATO interoperable, allowing it to communicate seamlessly, to share intelligence, and to carry out joint missions.
The decision pulls Canada closer to Europe as Donald Trump threatens to pull the U.S. away from NATO.
These vessels will monitor, deter, and help secure Allied control, not only in the North Atlantic, but also help us assert sovereignty in the Arctic.
Now, I'm going to just take a wild guess here, and it's not backed by anything, but I'm going to guess that Canada went with the German subs because it's fully NATO interoperative. Now, I'm not discounting at all what South Korea makes. I mean, I do like their products. I mean, hell, everything I have is a Samsung. But in the current times that we're in right now, I feel more comfortable having a product that our NATO allies are familiar with. I mean, our NATO allies know the issues that we're having with the circus of a next-door neighbor that we have. So for me, I'm happy with this pick.
Carney heading to the NATO summit next and is expected to talk this up after the Secretary General told allies not to show up empty-handed.
Across the Western Alliance, this is one of the biggest single defense projects in all of NATO. So it's a really consequential investment, a real significant increase in military capability.
TKMS promising in return to invest in Canada.
This program is expected to generate an economic impact for Canada of more than 167 billion Canadian dollars over the upcoming decades.
Now, I really like the fact that there's going to be investment into Canada. Canada's going to benefit. There's going to be jobs here. And also manufacturing too. I think I read somewhere it's going to be on the west coast of Vancouver Island somewhere. But in my opinion, this is how a partnership's supposed to be. It's not about just importing it in from a country and relying on that country for spare parts or shipments or maintenance. Which is why I do hope that Canada does decide to go with the Gripen jets from Sweden and drop the F-35s altogether. But I have been reading that it looks like it's going to be a mixed fleet. But you can see from the headline here, Saab would build Gripen fighter jets in Canada, while Lockheed Martin builds F-35s in Texas. Ottawa may fund both. How does that sound fair to Canada for the F-35s? But when you see other countries like Switzerland slashing their F-35 orders, and the true cost of the planes being a lot more than they expected. But not only that, I've seen reports of other countries waiting for parts and their F-35 fleet is basically grounded. I don't want to be held hostage by a country that, can't even run itself. So when it comes to the German subs, I'm happy they're going to be manufactured in Canada. And I am happy to have a partnership with Norway as well as Germany.
The government estimates the deal could create up to 100,000 Canadian jobs, including at Marmon, a Quebec company that will help build and assemble some parts of the subs.
It will be job creation, it will be technological development.
The Conservatives say the government should have replaced the old submarines long ago and wants far more transparency on the plan now.
And I was disappointed that Mark Carney refused to comment on what the entire cost is. But he was ready to throw around, employment numbers tied to this.
Man, these guys love to complain about everything. And for the record, I have voted conservative in the past, but not for the last couple elections. It just really bothers me when they expect everything to be like upfront right now. A big project like this can't be like planned up in 24 hours. Anyways, I'm not going to go down that route. But one thing I do want to comment on is that TKMS is not going to be the only company that's benefiting. As they mentioned, there's going to be other companies in Quebec, and probably other areas in Canada that are going to benefit as well. But there's going to be manufacturing jobs, procurement, logistics, IT, and any other industry that might be tied to this. I would rather have this kind of setup where Canadians do benefit versus just importing the parts from the United States and having the US gatekeep all the jobs and revenue.
So Murray, two competing bids to choose from. What did this decision really come down to for Canada?
Well, Adrian, it seems the decision hinged on the fact that both Germany and Norway are NATO allies. Germany and South Korea did put forward strong economic pitches, but Germany underlined the fact that three allied navies operating the same kind of boat would be significant for NATO, it would be significant for Canada in the Arctic, and it would be significant for the North Atlantic, where the United States has indicated that if there's a crisis, it'll be sending fewer naval vessels to the region.
So like I said earlier, you want to buy a product that your allies are also familiar with as well. I mean, a fictitious scenario could be if our NATO allies needed to help out on our submarine, they already know what to do. And you don't have to kind of learn everything from scratch again. I'm thinking about a movie that it was a submarine movie where I think they took over a submarine and everything was in a different language. I can't remember the movie's name, but that's what I'm thinking about right now. And again, this is not a knock to South Korea's submarine. I'm sure it's great. But given that we have the shared Arctic space with the NATO allies, it just makes sense to me. If anybody knows that movie, please let me know, because it's going to bother me now.
Also, we have to really underline the fact that this is very important for the Canadian Navy. It will fundamentally reshape it. Having 12 submarines as part of the fleet means approximately 1/3 to 1/2 of the future Navy would be submarines. And that could fundamentally reshape things for training as well as the kinds of missions the Canadian military will undertake in the future.
You know what actually saddens me? All of these potential future missions and things like that, we now have to keep in mind our next door neighbors as a potential threat. But having up to 12 new submarines monitoring Canada, it does make me feel a little bit better. So let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Do you think this was a good idea to go with Germany? Or would you have rather gone with South Korea? Now I want to move on to the next topic, which is the China EVs. They're on their way whether the United States likes it or not. But this report here from CGTN gives a good update on whether Canadians actually want them or not. Let's take a look.
EVs at this car dealership in Mississauga, a city just outside of Toronto, are getting their last inspection before going to their owners. The cars are not from China, but that may soon change. Carnick's dealership has been watching China closely and what they are doing to make a better EV product. And it's strongly considering selling EVs from China, says General Manager Noah Liu.
We're going to evaluate their product values, their product quality, as well as see if they're up to the Canadian market's expectation in terms of price, the most important thing, the price, and also after-sales services. They're critical to the Canadian market.
I don't think price is going to be an issue. They're definitely going to be lower than the Teslas and whatever EVs that come from the United States. But with China opening factories in Canada so they could be made here, they're going to have to follow the rules from Transport Canada. Now, for many Canadians back home, you probably haven't sat in a China EV yet. I've sat in quite a few here in Malaysia, and they're actually really nice. But you don't have to take my word for it. I mean, the China EVs, they're everywhere. Australia, Europe, UK, I think even South America. And the feedback I've seen is generally good, which makes me realize how deep into the US propaganda Canada has been. China EVs are bad, they're spy cars. Well, I think it's time for Canada to kind of think for themselves.
According to a Reuters report, the U.S. company Tesla has already started bringing Chinese-made vehicles into Canada, and it's expected that Geely, a Chinese brand, will export Lotus EVs to Canada starting this month.
So how do Canadians really feel about Chinese EVs coming here? Well, recent surveys show they're very open to it.
An Auto Pacific survey reveals that over half of Canadian car buyers would consider buying a car made in China. Another poll by Nanos research group for Bloomberg News says that 53% of Canadians said it wouldn't affect their buying decision if an EV came from China.
Now, I would really like to see the poll results if they were done 2 years ago, because I think 2 years ago, the sentiment would have been pretty different when it comes to China EVs. But with our next door neighbor and Elon going on meth binges, US EVs don't really have a good reputation right now. My personal guess, once the BYDs and the Geelys start arriving, there's going to be more and more Canadians that are going to be approving it. And cost is going to be a big factor.
And Lou says customers have already been expressing some interest. In terms of how Canada's move to work more with China might further strain relations with the US, some experts say it was still a reasonable choice.
So having another partners is something that we had to do. So maybe on a high level, it sours the relationship, but at any deeper level, it's a clear step, it's a clear response.
On the flip side, Professor Barron adds that U.S. lawmakers recently introduced legislation that could prevent Chinese EVs from traveling on U.S. roads.
Now, for anybody watching my videos right now, I don't think this would be a problem because we're not going to the United States. But there is going to be people who would buy China EVs that still want to go to the U.S., and that might deter them. But this whole potential legislation, it's ridiculous. It's like buying a toy and like your friend doesn't like the toy and saying, you can't come into my house with that toy. But if you buy my toy, then you can come into my house. I'm just trying to emphasize how childish this is. And for those people that want to go to the United States and won't buy a China EV, that's fine. Somebody else will just be right behind you wanting it.
This could have an impact on people who may want to travel to the US from Canada. And when it comes to Canada's auto industry, experts say it's important the cars are manufactured here in Canada.
We want just beyond just having access to Chinese cars, we want to have access to, want to make sure that jobs are being created here in manufacturing and research and infrastructure, because the future of the industry certainly isn't in hoping that we'll keep making gas cars in Canada.
Well, President Bonesburst has his way. All US manufacturing will be out of Canada, which is why I don't understand why Doug Ford is so hell-bent on protecting the US auto industry. The US auto industry is not loyal to us. They'll leave on a heartbeat. So I don't know why we're protecting them.
Back at Carnex, Lou agrees keeping Canadian jobs is important.
For example, the battery, the after-sales services, the aftermarket parts, there's going to be a huge market for all that as well.
For now, the more specific details on exactly how the cars will be made isn't clear, but Canada wants to make sure it's in the driver's seat.
So when you look at the partnerships with Australia, and now with Germany, as well as the China EVs coming over, I think we are in the driver's seat. But some of these projects, they're going to take years. I mean, the China EVs, they're coming over already, but the factory's going to take a while. And same with the submarines. It's going to be at least 5 years, or whatever they said, until the first one's in production. I personally understand how long it takes for these projects to get ramped up. I mean, me being in the tech industry, my project here overseas is going to take me minimum 2 years. And my project is a drop in the bucket compared to these ones. Things can't be built overnight, and you don't know the whole specs of everything right off the bat. But it's more the fact that we're getting off our ass to do something about it. I mean, Canada could take a different stance. It could just be like, okay, let's just wait for Taco Tuesday to leave. And then things will go back to normal. That's when we get the old Canada. Well, personally, I don't want the old Canada anymore. I don't want to rely on the United States anymore. I don't want them to be able to hold things over our head. I also don't want them to be taking the lead in our decisions. The biggest one that really bothers me is the China EVs. Like, why the hell did we put 100% tariffs just because the United States wanted us to? I didn't agree with Justin Trudeau's decision on that back then, and I don't agree with it now. But at least today, we're making our own decisions. And I mean, and if you ask me, it's a step in the right direction. So let me know in the comments below. What do you think about these 3 deals that you're seeing on the screen right now? Do you think they're all positive for Canada? Let me know in the comments below. To close off this video, I would like to thank VNicoMN71 from our Discord server for posting this photo of the King's Landing Museum in New Brunswick. If you're interested in visiting the King's Landing Museum, their website is kingslanding.mb.ca. I'll leave a link in the description below in case you want to check it out. But I want to thank you again, VNicoMN71, for posting this on the Discord server. Okay, everyone, that's all I got for this video. And again, another shout out to Belgium for beating the United States. I think you had the entire world behind you on this one. If you found any value in anything I said today, or you want to hear more from a Canadian and international point of view, without the US media bias, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below. That way you'll be notified of my future videos. And don't forget to hit the bell icon and select all as well. Now, if you want to see more of my videos, check out the ones that are going to show up on your screen shortly. Thanks, everyone. I'll catch you in the next one.